Good morning, Change Your World Everyday crew. Welcome to Simon Tyler's Week. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Monday morning, the first of my days with you. And as I've watched a few of the coaching weeks you've had, it's really curious. I've enjoyed them all. There's bits I've taken out. I've learned from many elements. I know this is the challenge for you, the fact that you have a week after week of really wonderful material, and those in themselves possibly create a little bit of overwhelm in terms of, I've got all the materials. Why isn't my life changing wonderfully and rapidly? But hopefully my job for you this week is, in my coaching context, to use my flags that I wave to help you work through some of the stuff you've already acquired this week, this year, and to work through things that you might experience, such as overwhelm, in a better and better way. So my three flags that I say I wear are simplicity, attitude, and impact. And I love now, for me, how the three of them have come together to form perhaps my approach and the impact that I have with my clients, whether I'm on a one-to-one coaching basis or one-to-group coaching basis, as we are here, or in the conference speeches I deliver and the workshops and events that I might also be facilitating or delivering. And it all started with simplicity. And being called Simon meant that I was the accursed simple Simon, and it was something that was said and thrown at me, probably not in too much of an insulting way, all through my childhood. So I spent a lot of my late childhood trying to prove to people that I wasn't simple. I was complicated. I was really, really complicated. I'm a complex person. And I wasn't. And there's a lot about mnemology. Those of you who haven't looked it up yet, but I'm sure it's called mnemology, which is the study of names and how our names really do play out in our lives. And there's a little bit of magic about how we end up, or we begin, rather than end up, we begin with the name that we're given. And it does play out. So my name, Simple Simon, did play out. And it wasn't until I was being coached in early 2001, 2002 maybe, and my coach, Drew Roselle, just said to me, why don't you just accept it, that you're Simple Simon? It's like, okay, well, what do you mean? And I can remember I'm a furrowed brow here trying to work out, well, what do you mean? And we spoke about my relationship to simplicity. And I realized I was simple. I tend to see things simply. I think in complicated and complex ways, but my go-to is simplicity. And I realized that was the impact I had on companies and on people, was my sometimes slower approach to ask the really, really simple question and just sit quietly, and that's what can unpick it all. So there's a number of tenets perhaps that I carry with me and drove me to write my first book, which is called The Simple Way, which is now being rewritten as the Keep It Simple book, which of course you read backwards on this, but there you go. That we get what we think about, whether we want it or not. And I was really curious by that expression, that how we think, because really our thinking is just processing stuff in order that we can go to in a much better way in every moment. But our thinking sometimes gets so complicated, we get trapped in our thinking. And my job sometimes is unpick that. So I'm quite curious about that tenet. The second one I use and mention in lots of my work is that when life becomes tough, and I mentioned earlier, overwhelm. So when life does become tough, I absolutely know that simplifying makes things better. So whatever people are experiencing, sadness, pressure, stress, overwhelm, as I said, simplifying is a way out. I'm not saying it's the only way out, but it really, really is the way out. But then equally, as I've worked with lots of people over the years, even when life is great, simplifying makes things even better. So it's not wait for the rainy day and start simplifying, it's to do it all the time. So onwards. So my job for you today is I'm going to start the process of just dropping in some feeds into your thinking that will simplify stuff. Coupled with that is I'm going to endeavor to shift your attitude. I'll talk about attitude specifically in a moment, And they culminate in the impact you have on a daily basis in whatever environment you find yourself. It's how we come across, the impact we have, maybe in the words we use in our feeds and in social media and so on. So attitude, the second big piece I'm going to talk about with you is how we think we are choosing our attitude, but we're not. And my most recent book, which came out last year, he says, shameless plug, the Attitude book, just looks at ways in which we could become more conscious and more deliberate about how we select our attitude. And shifted attitudes, different things really do happen. And in my work, as soon as I committed to the publisher that I was going to write the Attitude book as the third in that series, I realized just what a huge field I'd gone into. It was enormous. And I see attitudes playing out everywhere, in every interaction I have. From the moment you step in the car and drive to the station or whatever it is, on my way to London, wherever I'm going, it's like attitudes are at play all the time. And where they meet and interact. And attitudes are... they affect other people's attitudes. They are, the word escapes me, but they are contagious. That's the word I'm looking for. Attitudes are contagious, and they meet other attitudes. And we think that we choose an attitude, but most days we're just up, and our attitude comes with what probably we carried into the night before. We wake up in the morning. So what I've noticed over the years, and it took longer for me to write the Attitude book than the others because I realised the field size that I'd gone into, but attitudes have shifted when your heart feels happy. But when your heart feels happy, you just know, and all of us will interpret that in different ways, what happy heart feels. I know when I'm slightly discombobulated or slightly on edge or carrying too much thinking into, and I had this a couple of weeks ago, and if I put my hand on my heart, and that's a wonderful expression, you hear that, put your hand on your heart. If I put my hand on my heart, it's just not as happy as I want it to be. So a shifted attitude, I genuinely feel my heart is happy. Second thing to notice is smile, and your propensity and the ease with which you can smile is consistent with you've got the attitude set that you want. And I notice some days, again back to my glum phase, and I write a simple note every 2 weeks, and it goes out to the world, and you're more than happy to subscribe to that on the website and so on. But the simple note is quite often a reflection of what I'm experiencing in my life or my clients are experiencing in their world that I can bring through my simple notes. And a couple of weeks ago I was having a really muddy time. I was carrying lots and lots of must do that, must do that, must do this, lots and lots of minutiae in my head that needed to be done. I had a new client, concentrating, wanted to do a great job for them, new audience. I had a number of little engagements coming up I needed to do slightly different things for. I wasn't in pattern, and of course this is great, and I'll come back to another piece, I'm sure, on this. But I realised I was not in a great shape, and I'm seeing people, and I could feel my smile really working, and it's this one. It was an artificial smile. So the smile piece is curious. When you find it easy to smile, some of us have got naturally upturned faces. I've got a naturally downturned face, but that's okay. But even we smile with our eyes, and people can see that. So when you see somebody who just has a naturally smiling face, their whole attribute smile, that's probably their attitude is in the range set they want. And the third piece that I notice about good attitudes in me and in clients is we start to enjoy our feelings. It doesn't necessarily mean that we have great feelings and they're all wonderful and yeah, they're fantastic feelings I'd love to have all the time. But they are, whatever feelings are showing up for me, it's like, oh, I quite enjoy that. Curiosity, stubbornness, a little bit of frustration, that's interesting. And I'm able to enjoy them. And that's why I'll drop one notice that I'm sure this is going to come out as a simple note in the next few weeks, which is I've started to notice lots more coaches in the world, and perhaps it's been for a long period of time, talking about the power of gratitude. And I talk about that in the Attitude book, clearly, that gratitude makes a difference. But the act of being grateful is curious, and the first step that people most often go to is sit and think what I'm grateful for. Great step. That's an act of gratitude. And even in the toughest of times, most of us can find things that we're grateful for. But I would like to propose to you, change your worlders, hardcore gratitude. And I've noticed the impact of hardcore gratitude is incredible. Hardcore gratitude is being grateful for stuff that you don't really think you want to be grateful for. Hardcore attitude is having the intake a breath, thinking, I don't like this situation, I don't like this person, I don't like where I've got myself, I don't know where my head has gone to, I don't like the fact that my car it hasn't got a puncture, I don't think, touch wood, it hasn't got a puncture, but you go to your car and it's got a puncture. I don't like that. That's where hardcore gratitude comes in. And hardcore gratitude is that moment to go, okay, this is interesting. I'm actually quite grateful for this, because there's stuff here that's going to happen that I didn't realize was going to unpack as a result. I wrote about it in a number of different ways, and there's one piece which I call CIA, to call in your own CIA. And C is, can I control it? Can I control the situation? Well, no. Take the puncture as an example. I can't control my puncture. It is what it is. And then you go to the I. Can I influence this in some way? Can I influence the tire? No, I can't. Can I influence the situation? No, not really. It is. So the only place I can go is the A, which is accept it. CIA. Accept it. And I'll put a little caveat in there. It's accept it for now. But the accept it for now, the extra piece I added is because a lot of people are quite stubborn about accepting things that they didn't want to accept. So I was working it through with people, particularly in groups. So adding the for now is a mind calmer that allows the brain to put it into the processing a bit better. So, okay, I'm just to accept this for now. And that's doable almost for everybody. So this process, the CIA, is something that I think now, because I thought about it and written about it so much and for such a long period of time, it just happens. So I've been able to work with and explore, only in the last few weeks, hardcore gratitude. And it's such a shift. So if you want to go much, much further than all these people that say, yeah, power of gratitude, let's be grateful for my cup of tea, grateful for the electronic environment we live in that works this morning and the internet is working. No, let's look at the stuff that doesn't work. Let's look at the people that irritate us. I wrote that a few weeks ago. Everything that annoys you. So that's up on the website if you want to go and read that one, which is to explore everything that annoys you. That's where hardcore gratitude can go. Okay, enough about that. I went off at a tangent. And anybody who's been to any of my events, and hopefully I'll meet some of you at one of your events or one of my events in the future, you'll know I go off at tangents. And I normally catch one person in the front rows, and I'll see, as soon as their face goes, which is in essence, where has he gone? That's when I haul myself back. Okay, so the third thing, so we talked about simplicity, we've talked about attitude, and we've talked about impact. And on impact, I want for you to, whatever you get out of this week, and I'll talk about many things, many of my simple notes from the Keep It Simple book, or the attitude shifters from the attitude book, and the impact notes. I'll talk about various ones of those as we go through this week. I want them to accumulate so that you can shift the way you have impact. And my noticing and the prep work I did for writing that book, to complete the set, there's the impact book, and all three of them, and look, how pretty is that? There we go. Impact, that's what I was talking about. So my work for that picked up 4 stages of us having impact. And the 4 stages, lots of people aren't aware of because they're quite subtle, and lots of the leaders, particularly leaders, board level people I work with, some of them have a sense of urgency. So they want to work with me because they want to, they might not say impact as their word, they want to have the change effect on their teams, on their clients, on the way the organization moves, or whatever. They just, come on, let's move. What do I need to do? What do I need to do? And they drive into what for me is the final stage of the 4 steps, which is action. And I'll come to obviously the 4th stage in a moment, but the 4 A's I work with impact are, the first stage is attraction, which is you as a leader, as a person, as a business, you need to have some attraction about you. You need to consider, how am I attracting people? Am I attractive to people? Are my ideas attractive? And sometimes at that stage, that's the cleanup stage of the way you come across, the way you engage. When things are going brilliantly, you can swear like a trooper, you can do whatever you want because you're at the point where you have your followers. But the first stage, the attraction step, is just get this working through cleanly. Second stage is appetite. So people are drawn to you, but they have an appetite for your stuff, whatever your stuff is, your leadership style, the way you work, the way you want to have an influence in the world. And when they start to have an appetite, they come back for more. But they're still in control of the momentum. They'd go, okay, well, tell me a bit more. Yeah, I'm happy to work on your stuff. It's still your stuff, not my stuff. And then the third step is, having moved people through that process, is the advocacy stage. And advocacy is when you start to notice people talking about your stuff in different contexts and environments, or they use your phrases and expressions, or they call you in, or they go to you for reference, so that they're at the advocacy stage. So you've moved people through this pathway to the point that the action stage that some of my early clients particularly want, almost starts to happen on its own. And in the action stage of impact, I notice that's where stuff is happening. The world is changing without you being involved. So maybe that's Susie's long-term notes, which a goal in terms of her impact, which is that change your world every day. It's happening. The world is changing every day, and people haven't spoken to her for ages. That's the path of impact. So I've talked about the 3 pieces, and as we go through this week, if you have anything specific that you think, I just need an attitude shift, or I'd like just to bring some more simplicity to just give me the word and I'll take that. I will during the week talk specifically about overwhelm, because that's come up, and ways of working that through to become really beautifully engaged with overwhelm in a new way. And if there's stuff you've encountered that's blocked you, I'll try and shift your attitude or send in a simple note that will help you and boost you and change your course. But the 3, if I've got, well, let's just try 2 at a time. I've got 2 things I want to leave you with for today, maybe your practice for the day. And the first one is from the Keep It Simple book, which is a great simplifier. And it's so obvious. When I talk about it at conferences or events, people go, oh yeah, obviously, yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I'm going to do that. Yeah, no worries. And they don't. And I'm really curious about how that works with people, how we human beings, I get that, I'm going to do that. And you don't. And we think in that moment, what a brilliant idea, I'm going to do that. And we don't. Why is that? I'm really curious about that. I'm still learning about that. But the piece I want to leave you is, I'm at my best when. One of my coach friends, Kate Duffy, years ago, kept using this all the time. And I experienced that. I was like, yeah, I get what you're saying, Kate. And I never did it. So I'm at my best when is a sentence starter. And when I'm speaking at conferences, I make people in the room write this down. That's where I become the hard-nosed teacher, the hardcore teacher. Which is, if you take a moment today, maybe after this call, after this broadcast, pen and paper, and start with, I'm at my best when, and just start the list. If it's a long sentence and a paragraph, write that. If it's bullet points, write that. If it's memories of when you are at your best, go there. But the exploration of I'm at my best when, and we all put our own layers and filters on what best might mean for us. But start to uncover, what are the ingredients of me at my best? I'm at my best when I start the day with people that inspire me. I'm at my best when I'm close or can see out, whatever it is. What are the ingredients? Some people have ingredients that are outside of them, so they're contingent stuff. Some people have stuff that's all about them. That's cool. When you have your I'm at my best when list, you start to have the raw ingredients of setting yourselves up for great days. And if you don't have great days, have a look back at your I'm at my best when list, and some of them won't be there, obviously. And connected to that, I'm going to take something that I wrote about in a simple note a few weeks ago, or was it last week, which is called Clearing the Drains. And I invite you to look at the week you have ahead and think about all of the things in your diary that might drain you and your energy and your happiness. Look at the meetings you've got, look at the events you've got, and it's okay. It's okay to have the drains, because sometimes we high energy people, it's our job to turn up and put stuff to clear drains out. That's our job. But if your week is full of drains, I can tell you what you're going to be like on Friday. You can predict it already. But before we do, then you look at the boosters you're going to have in your week this week. Who are you meeting? Who are you seeing? What are you reading? What events are you attending? What have you got planned for your dinner schedule this week? Have you got an exciting food thing you're going to do? Maybe one of the evenings this week. Have you got people coming around? And look at your week. And this for me, I like them to go mechanical. So when you look at your boosts and your drains, have a look across the week. For every booster you've got in your schedule this week, that's +1. For every drainer you've got in your week this week, that's -1. Add them together. The product is how you will feel at 6 p.m. on Friday night. It happens. Look at the boosts, look at the drains. If the equation doesn't work out to be in a positive by the end of the week, know that you're going to need some kind of a weekend. And what happens, I notice, is people who are unconscious about this have a minus week, in effect, on My Mechanic, and try and make their weekends so important to recharge me and refuel me. And it never is. And the weekend finishes like that. And for people that have a positive in that mechanic of the boosts and drains, when their weekends turn up, they seem to have a lovely time. They seem to fit 3 or 4 more things at the weekend. So when they're talking to colleagues on the Monday morning, they say, oh yeah, I did that. Oh, and I did that. Oh, and I went to the cinema. Oh yeah, and we did that as well. So where did you get the time to do that? How did that happen? It's because they finished their week on a plus. They had beans. They still had more beans inside them. It's one of those. So if you look at your boosts and your drains, look at the equation. If the equation doesn't work out as you look for this week, put more boosts in. Spend time with people. Just book a half-an-hour conversation with a friend of yours that makes you feel great. It needs to happen in some weeks. Don't wait till Friday to do it, because you could be on your last energy legs by Friday. Don't do it. So, if you process stuff more easily through audio as opposed to written stuff, all of my simple notes I release on the day of publishing as a podcast, and they're on SoundCloud and on iTunes. So again, if you just look for me in iTunes, Simple Simon, Simply Simon T, something like that, you'll find them on iTunes, and they're all around about 10 minutes, so they can easily be consumed on your journeys anywhere. So I hope this has been a good start. And just as another warning, health warning, and I must apologise, this week I'm performing in a play on Thursday, Friday and Saturday, and it means that I've got to shave my beard off for the first time in 5 years, and I will have a rather nasty pencil moustache, a 1950s pencil moustache. I'm sorry in advance. So to wrap up, everything is okay. Everything is okay. It just is. Enjoy the fact that you're going to dip yourselves into simplicity and attitude shifts this week so that your impact will change. Consider hardcore gratitude. Have a go at that. The outcome is awesome. Your body will fight it, but away you go. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great day and keep it simple, obviously.